All right, Shalom and all praises. All praises be to the Most High God, Yahweh, and his son whose name is Yahawashi. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahawashi. This is the brother Sagalah, back with a lesson all through the Spirit. And I'm going to jump right into it and start here in the book of Ecclesiasticus 47 and verse 22. And it says, "But the Yahweh will never leave off his mercy, neither shall any of his works perish. Neither will he abolish the posterity of his elect, and the seed of him that loveth him he will not take away. Wherefore he gave a remnant unto Jacob, and out of him a root unto David." All praises be to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahawashi, Bahashem Rekakwadash. Honors be to the elect elders of the nation of Israel, Barakim La, Habayath Madabada. Blessings to the house of David, which are your brothers laboring on the four corners of the earth in truth and in sincerity. And to the Akim and Akwath, the brothers and sisters that also listen and believe on the glorious gospel being preached throughout the four corners of the earth. Daily unto you I say Shalom. Shalom and Barakatham, peace and blessings to Yad always, unto the house of David, the believers, the Bakarim. For the Most High made a promise that he would never leave off his mercy toward the elect, and the elect being the house of David. This is the book of Matthew 24 and verse 30. It says, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other." So the gathering of the elect, is what Yahawashi is coming to do, is gather the elect and wage war on the earth. First and foremost with Esau, Edom, the man of sin, who will be ruling here in the last days. So as Yahawashi is coming to wage war, one of his primary missions is to make sure the elect are gathered, that the elect are preserved and protected in those chariots, which are the clouds of heaven that he's coming back with the angels, the Elohim. So the gathering of the elect is what it's all about. That's the main thing that's left, is the gathering of the elect. Now that's going on as well. Let me go back here. Today, that's going on in the spirit, but the literal gathering of the righteous is what the Most High is sending Yahawashi to do. So the elect are being gathered in spirit and in truth today, awaiting that time when Yahawashi is going to actually ultimately gather or beam up the elect on the chariots. Baruch 4 and 32, it says, "Miserable are the cities which thy children served. Miserable is she that received thy sons," speaking of the other nations. "In all the places our people were scattered and dispersed. For as she rejoiced at thy ruin and was glad of thy fall, so shall she be grieved for her own desolation. For I will take away the rejoicing of her great multitude, and her pride shall be turned into mourning. For fire shall come upon her from the everlasting, long to endure, and she shall be inhabited of devils for a great time." Speaking of Babylon the Great, and there's different chapters that show that that's speaking about Babylon. That's where the lake of fire is going to be. That's going to be the actual disdain and the indignation of the Most High, the righteous anger. Babylon the Great is going to actually be that, and it's going to be inhabited, it says, of devils for a great time. Verse 36, "O Jerusalem, look about thee toward the east, and behold the joy that cometh unto thee from the Most High. Lo, thy sons come, whom thou sendest away. They come gathered together from the east to the west, by the word of the Holy One, rejoicing in the glory of the Most High." And this word is why the believers are rejoicing upon receiving the truth. As the scriptures say, roughly paraphrasing, "Happy is he that findeth wisdom." So the glory, of the Holy One the elect are rejoicing in the glory that they've been given by the Most High, which starts with the believers returning to this truth. So the gathering of the elect is what's going on, so that ultimately they will be gathered by Yahawashi before the missiles come. Right? Let's show that real quick. The elect are being gathered now and preserved before the actual destruction. This comes to mind. 1 Corinthians 15 and 50. It says, "Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of the Most High," meaning these terrestrial or earthly bodies can't be received in those chariots, which is the establishment of the kingdom of heaven, when the elect are actually gathered by Yahawashi ultimately. "Neither doth corruption inherit incorruption." So we have to be changed in order to receive the promises. Verse 51, "Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed," speaking of the elect, "in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed." Verse 53, "For this corruptible must put on incorruption," meaning we have to lose these bodies, and our spirit has to go into those heavenly bodies that's awaiting us in the chariots. We be of the elect. "And this mortal," meaning this earthly body, this terrestrial body, "must put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the same that is written, death is swallowed up in victory." So that's when we're going to get the actual victory. We would have conquered death, because the elect that's going to get beamed up on the chariots would not have had to have died to actually receive the promises. They would be changed, or they would be given those celestial or heavenly bodies without having to actually die. Although you will have, those some that are going to be martyrs, but a great bulk of that unnumbered multitude are going to receive the promises by never having to actually die on the side, as Yahawashi said. There's not all are not going to taste of death. So the gathering of the elect is what we're witnessing. So let's show that further, because we read in Baruch 4, we're being gathered by the word of the Holy One. So let's go back here in Isaiah 34 in verse 16. The elect are being gathered by the word, meaning returning to the truth and being preserved when you read in the scriptures. We'll touch on that. Isaiah 34:16, "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord Yahweh and read." So we're commanded to come back to reading the word, getting the understanding and believing it. "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord Yahweh and read. No one of these shall fail," speaking of the prophecies. "None shall want her mate," meaning you can't mix and match the Bible with any other book. "For my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them." So the spirit of the Most High is what's gathering the believers. The spirit of this book, which is the spirit of the Lord. The spirit of this book, let's get that, is the spirit of the Most High. So the spirit of this book, the spirit of the Lord, is gathering the believers. John 6 and verse 63, "It is the spirit that quickeneth," which means to bring life. "The flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life." So it's the spirit of the Most High is in his words and life unto the elect that can receive it, which is also known as the engrafted word, or the Holy Spirit, the Rakah Kodash in the Hebrew. So the Spirit have gathered them, the believers. Only the elect are being gathered by the Spirit, meaning they're the only ones it's been given to actually receive the gift of faith and the understanding through the Holy Spirit. This is Isaiah 43, speaking of the gathering of the elect. I would start from the top, but I want to get right to the point. I don't want to make this video too long. Isaiah 43 in verse 4, it says, "Since thou wast precious in my sight, thou hast been honorable, and I have loved thee. Therefore will I give men for thee, and people for thy life. Fear not, for I am with thee. I will bring thy seed from the east and gather thee from the west. The same thing that we read in the book of Baruch, the 4th chapter. We're being gathered from the east to the west by the word of the Holy One, as we read in Isaiah 34:16. Isaiah 43:6. I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from far and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Because the scriptures say that the Most High is going to give repentance to his sons and his daughters. That's speaking of the elect. The gathering of the elect is what's underway. Verse 7. Everyone that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory, and those that's called by his name is Israel, Yasharallah. I have formed him, yea, I have made him. So the Most High said he has formed and has made the elect. And it says the same thing in Isaiah 65 and verse 8, that's the grape of a cluster that's been kept, the elect, with great labor has he made the believers perfect. So once again, this the gathering of the elect, which is underway, the sons and daughters that's being gathered from the east to the west, from the east to the west. So now let's touch on that, because this gathering, it comes with opposition, which is all prophecy, which is the time of Jacob's trouble, and ultimately the missiles, the intercontinental ballistic missiles that's going to hit throughout the four corners of the earth. But the elect have been made promises, and those promises is for the mercy that we read about in Ecclesiasticus 47:22. It says the Lord will never leave off his mercy. So the mercy is coming to the elect, and we're hoping and laboring in hopes of being of the elect by enduring to the end. Isaiah 59 and verse 19. So shall they fear the name of the Lord Yahweh from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. We keep hearing about from the west and the east. When the enemy shall come in like a flood. So the times we're coming into is the enemy is going to come in like a flood, right? So it'll be a time of trouble that's never been since there's been people on the earth. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of Yahweh shall lift up a standard against him. So the spirit of the Most High is going to offset the left-hand side. The right-hand side is going to prevail against the left-hand side, meaning evil is going to actually be destroyed, because it won't be able to conquer the light. The darkness won't conquer the light. The light is going to conquer the darkness. So righteousness is ultimately what's going to prevail. So the Most High is going to lift up a standard. It says when the enemy comes in like a flood. So the floods are upon us. The floods are upon us. And let's get this here in the book of 2nd Ezra. So the enemy is going to come in like a flood. This is part of the prophecy and what's going to happen here in these last days as the elect are being gathered. So this is a part of our gathering. This is a part of the opposition. This is a part of going through the furnace of affliction. This is 2nd Ezra 4 and 15. It says the floods of the sea also in like manner took counsel, speaking of the nations, Esau headed by Esau, and said, come, let us go up and subdue the woods of the plain, that there also we may take us another country. The thought of the wood was in vain, for the fire came and consumed it. Ultimately, the plans of the wicked are going to be consumed by the fire and brimstone, the destruction, the missiles. Verse 17, the thought of the floods of the sea came likewise to naught, meaning it's not going to happen, although this is in the mind of the wicked. For the sand stood up and stopped them. So it's going to be stopped by the Most High, because ultimately the Most High's will is that the elect will be preserved, and that mercy has always been extended to the believers, the elect. So those floods are not going to touch the elect. And it gives you a good example here. Like, let me show you an example. Let's go over to 2nd Ezra 7th chapter. Give a little more context in the spirit. Here in 2nd Ezra 7th chapter, it touches on that. Gives an example, speaking of the floods, the waters that's to come. 2nd Ezra 7 and 6, it says, there is also another thing. A city is builded, speaking of the kingdom of heaven, and set upon a broad field, and is full of all good things, which are all the promises. The entrance thereof is narrow, meaning to get to the kingdom, it's a narrow path, a position of difficulty. Straits. and is set in a dangerous place to fall. That's the floods. Those are all the stumbling blocks. That's the furnace of affliction. Like as if, it says, like as if there were a fire on the right hand and on the left a deep water, and one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once. So there you go. So that's what the kingdom of heaven is likened unto, which we know those floods and that water is the enemy coming for the children of Israel. But the Most High is going to offset that, because that is the whole purpose of prophecy, is that the Most High's word would be faithful and true. So now let's go back here. Speaking of that flood. So the floods are upon us, but the promises of the Most High is going to conquer all things. Psalm the 91st chapter is a great chapter to read. Oftentimes when meditating on, the times we're coming into. This is the book of Psalm 32:6, speaking of those floods. For this shall everyone that is godly pray unto thee in a time when thou mayest be found. Surely in the floods of great waters, they shall not come nigh unto him. So those great floods are not going to come nigh unto the godly. In context is what this is speaking about, the godly. Verse 7, thou art my hiding place. It says, thou shalt preserve me from trouble. Thou shalt compass me about with songs of deliverance. So the believers have been given the word, and they're going to be given the actual deliverance. So it says, thou art in hiding place. The Most High is going to be a hiding place. And that hiding place we know is Isaiah 33:6 is one example. So what's going to be the hiding place? Isaiah 33:6, the same word that's gathering the believers is preserving them, which is likened unto a hiding place, a pavilion. Isaiah 33:6, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord Yahweh is his treasure. So believers have the wisdom, knowledge, understanding, the faith, and the fear. And that, once again, constitutes that hiding place is being spoken of. Now, those floods are not going to touch the believers because they're going to be in the hiding place. Let's continue to show what that hiding place is. Psalm 119 and 114. Psalm 119 and 114, and it reads, thou art my hiding place and my shield. I hope in thy word. Let's read that again. And I'll read it in the NLT this time, on the right-hand side of the screen. Psalm 119 and 114 in the NLT. You are my refuge and my shield. Your word is my source of hope. So this word is the source of hope to the believers. That's why it's so imperative, as it says in Proverbs 4:7, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Because we're going to be gathered by coming back and having faith in the words of the Most High. That's actually preserving the elect here in these last days. Let's continue on. As we were speaking about, the elect being gathered. So the word is doing that now, but Yahawashi is going to literally come and gather the believers. This is Jeremiah 16, and as you see the title here, God or the Most High will restore them. Who? The believers. It says hope despite the disaster. So the Most High is it says restore them, restore the believers, the elect. Jeremiah 16 and 14, therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, the Lord Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Meaning we're not going to even, speak on Egypt no more, because the deliverance out of Babylon is going to be that much greater. It's going to be told about in the annals of history forever. Jeremiah 16 and 15, but Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, which is North America, which is also Babylon the Great, Arsareth, the lake of fire. This is going to be the greatest deliverance is here in Babylon. But not only, let's continue to read. And from all the lands whither he have driven them, and all the places our people were scattered, they're about to be delivered from. It says, And I will bring them again into their land, speaking of the land of Israel, that I gave unto their fathers. Verse 16, behold, I will send for many fishers, saith Yahweh, and they shall fish them. And after, right now we're fishing for the believers. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks. So these fishers that are out fishing, right, for the believers are going to be turned to hunters. Are going to be turned to hunters after the return of Yahawashi. Now, the point being that we're going to be brought back by the word of the Holy One and preserved to be delivered by Yahawashi, as verse 14 and 15 spoke of here in Jeremiah 16. So it's the deliverance. The deliverance is coming to the believers that are scattered. So now let's go back here to Isaiah to touch on that. That deliverance is coming to the elect that's scattered. Now here the title says the restored remnant. The restored remnant, and they're being restored and preserved by the word. Isaiah 11 and 11, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Adawan, or the Lord, shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea, meaning on the four corners of the earth. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Because the prophecies speak about how when we go into like Deuteronomy 28, that we will be scattered. Deuteronomy 28 and 64. And then you go down to 68, and we will be scattered on the four corners of the earth. It says, and by way of slave ship. So the Most High is actually, sending his son to return to make good on this promise that you see here on the screen, which is vitally important. And one of the main reasons why, I'll close it out with this, let something hit me in the spirit, right? The elect that's scattered, the Most High is not going to forget not one, the parable of the 99 and the one. He's not going to leave one sheep behind. Not one of the ones that's promised to be of the first fruits, the remnant, are going to be left behind. Even those that would have died before the deliverance, they're going to receive the promises too. So not one is going to be left behind. So this is how important that promise is, and why it's impossible that the Most High won't make good on that promise. So that's what we have to look forward to, is the word of the Most High. So this is Ecclesiasticus 24, and I'll start at 6. And this is speaking about from the beginning. These were the promises that were made before there was ever men on the earth. Ecclesiasticus 24 and 6, it says, in the waves of the sea, meaning amongst all the nations, and in all the earth, and in every people and nation, I got a possession. So you have Israelites that scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. For those that can receive it, this is further proof that even before there were men on the earth, or people on the earth, or even the thought of that, right before the creation, this was already being discussed by the Most High God, Yahweh, and his son, Yahawashi. Verse 7, with all these I sought rest, and in whose inheritance shall I abide? So the creator of all things gave me a commandment, and he that made me caused my tabernacle to rest, and said, let thy dwelling be in Jacob, and thine inheritance in Israel. So this was already discussed by the Most High and Yahawashi, that he would be of the man named Jacob, the 12 tribes, and he would be an Israelite, because we know Jacob's name was changed to Israel. He created me from the beginning, before the world, and I shall never fail. So Yahawashi, I often say, is on a no-fail mission. He can't fail. It's impossible, because the promises of the elect being gathered is going on now, and ultimately the great gathering before the destruction is coming for the elect. I want to give all praises, infinite honor, and glory to the God of heaven and earth, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahawashi, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Once again, all praises to the Most High God, Yahweh, and his son, Yahawashi. Honors be to the elect elders of the nation of Israel, who are laboring in truth and in sincerity on the four corners of the earth. Barakim La Habayath Madawada. Blessings to the house of David, which are you brothers laboring in truth and in sincerity, day in and day out on the four corners of the earth as well. And Barakim, and Barakim, and much love and peace to the believing Akim and Akwath, which are the brothers and sisters that listen and believe on the glorious gospel, right, that's being taught day in and day out. Unto you, I say Shalom, Shalom, and Barakatham. Blessings to the believing brothers and sisters. Shalom.